Hi, my name is Marty.
Hi.
My name is Martie Smith, and I'm here sharing with Michelle a wonderful conversation about our lives and how we met and everything. But I'm here to share my story with the audience because I think I've become an expert in resilience that I didn't even know I had expertise in.
You do.
And I'm here to share my story and to let other people know that no matter what you go through, no matter what you face, no matter all these adversity events that occur in your life, it's not the end of the world. You're still alive. You're still creating. You're still able to find a solution. Surround yourself with the people that can help you see that in you that maybe you don't even discover in yourself. So how I come to all this conclusion, I'm telling you a little of the backstory, is because I have been for 64 years considered a mistake. In my mind, I had built up a bunch of emotional luggage. My parents told me I was a mistake when I was 7 years old. I joined the Air Force as a rebellion because I was old enough to sign my contract. But my parents were very strict and they didn't let me do the Girl Scout thing. They didn't let me join the
Mhm.
volleyball team. I was always wanting to belong to someone or
Mhm.
something. And I thought, wow, the armed services, that's kind of cool. And the recruiter showed up and they showed me all these uniforms and I was like, ooh, I like the Marine Corps. That's pretty sharp. No, I don't like that person. So I already started deducting quickly that I wanted to be this some way, shape, or form. So I picked the Air Force. I signed my delayed entry program, graduated from high school, and I was going to go. Well, very well, Marty. You made the decision. You didn't have to get your parents' permission, but now you got to tell them what you going to do then. Now, you minded, this is the person that was called a mistake, had never
Mhm.
done anything right, had always tried to get 100 on her test because 98 wasn't good enough. What did you do wrong? So it made me a perfectionist in a bad way.
Right.
So I got home and I told my parents very boldly that I was going to go in this service and they couldn't do a thing about it. And they're like, my dad's put his foot down. He said, we're moving and you're not taking off to go in the Air Force. I say, oh, and this is where I became a instant attorney. Oh no, it's a federal offense. You can't go into the service and then say no. You go AWOL and they're gonna come after you and you're gonna be in trouble. And
Right.
the FBI and all the CIA.
Yep.
So I went and said all that, but we still moved. We moved from New York to North Carolina, and I was like, "Oh gosh, I really got to find a way to
Mhm.
get to basic training, and I have to go back to New York." Luckily, and this is where I say these little angels get placed by God. My
Mhm.
godmother decided, she said, "You're going to get paid in the service. I'll pay for your ticket. You just fly yourself up here from Florida and you
Mhm.
take off the day that you're supposed to take off." And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, whew. Okay, but I couldn't show that plane ticket to my parents because they would,
Mhm.
okay.
Right.
Put it in the trunk of the car like a little I Spy, Mission Impossible. I'm gonna take care of this. And I think back then I was very adventurous, very, very bold, very cocky, but in a
Very.
in a disorganized sort of way. And now
Mhm.
I see how life has taught me how to be a little more reserved and calculated in my decision making process and everything. But
Mhm.
in any case, I'm glad I dared. I know that I launched myself out of the comfort zone when I signed up for the Air Force. I get to basic training. It was a cakewalk. It was the best. Why? Because I'd had such a strict background with my parents. I was a little cheerleader in there, and I was like, oh, I belong to somebody. This is like my family.
Right.
So I was feeling really good, and I know that I started building confidence, but not to the point that I needed to. So little by little, I started gaining independence. Was nice. It was liberating. I could make my own choices, make my own mistakes, whatever. I would deal with it. No one would tell me what to do. No one would keep me from doing everything that I wanted to at least try. So unfortunately, I got a call from my mom saying your father's going to die. He's got peritonitis. And I'm like, what
Mhm.
do I do? By then, I was already engaged to someone in Arizona where I was stationed, and we were going to
Mhm.
get married. And my parents had met him, but they were like, you're not getting married because
Right.
right before I left in the Air Force to go in the Air Force, the basic training, my dad had to try to arrange a marriage with this guy that worked with him. And he was rich. He lived next door to Burt Reynolds, and I was supposed to be impressed by that. He
Mhm.
While I was in the Air Force training, he sent me a care package with the car. He had bought me a black Corvette with red leather interior and
Mhm.
the house beautiful scenario of how the house he had money and it was nothing for him to spend. But I was like, I don't love this guy. And I've already been around the ritzy rich because I did grow up in a rich environment. So it's
Mhm.
like I associated that with blue blood and arrogance and all the wrong reasons why not to like money. Now I see that money is important and it can help people. It can make you help in a community and in the world. You just
Right.
don't
Mm.
rationalize all this when you only got little bits and pieces of things that have worked for you or don't work for you. So I just kind of shied away from all that. My mom calls me, says, "Your dad's got peritonitis. You need to come home." And I told my fiance in Arizona, he's like, "Choose between them or me." And I'm like, "Whoa, where did this come from? This is from
Wow. Mhm.
someone that loved me. You can't make me choose my family." Okay. So I flew to Florida
Mhm.
and dad was sitting at the poolside with a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. I like to have died. And I was like, for this, I lost my fiance. But I didn't put two and two together. This guy didn't
Mhm.
really love me. Just the big
Right.
didn't come to fruition. Well, I ended up going back home to Florida to live with my parents, and that's a hard thing to do when you've tasted independence and freedom
Mhm.
and but my solution to that problem was work three jobs if you have to. Don't just go home to sleep and to
Mhm.
and to eat. And you have to eat there because you work at
Right.
a restaurant. So I worked at an airport at West Palm Beach International. I loved it because I worked with Learjet, like catering service and everything. I was having a good time in Florida, but that wasn't meant to be because all of a sudden Dad decided to move again, and I'm like, good God, where are we going now? To
Mhm.
the cow country, I called it North Carolina. I said,
Mm.
I don't know, want to go to where Barney Fife and all these people. I don't, no, because I was in West Palm Beach and it was kind of like a pretty good environment for me to be in because I was
Mhm.
active and I had all this to do. But I had to move with them and I moved. Well, I got three jobs in North Carolina. I was a assistant bartender and manager at a bowling alley. I applied for a nuclear power plant job working with all my Air Force training. And then the
Mhm.
third job was going to school for word processing. I don't even think that it even exists anymore. So I tried a little bit of everything. I was always like a Jackie of all trades, mistress of none. I'm gonna try something. And I don't, all this time now I realize in looking back, I was looking for something. What I was
Mhm.
really looking was for love for myself, loving
Mhm.
myself and getting a clear head of what I was about, what I liked, what I didn't like, and what I wanted to be or not be. So it was a struggle. It was hard,
Mhm.
but I did it and I was grateful to for everything that happened. In that bowling alley, that first week I worked, I met
Mhm.
this guy. He ordered a pitcher of beer, and I was like, blah, 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 blah. Now, this from the person that had been engaged twice, once by my dad and once with this other guy. I was like, I'm done with men. I'm going to join the Peace Corps. I'm going to
Mhm.
serve people as long as I got food and shelter. That's all I care about. That's how minimalist I'd become because I was sick
Right.
and tired of stuff. You can't buy people with stuff. So
You're right.
it was cute. It was very cute. I met him that night. He took my phone number and I was like, ooh, and the girl that I was working with, oh, he's checking me out. I'm like, hey. He waited for me to get off work. We exchanged numbers and then he says, I'll call you. I said, okay, yeah, okay, whatever. 2 weeks went by, he hadn't called me. I'm like, that was all blah, blah, blah. I go and report to the nuclear power plant job, and lo and behold, I think I'm seeing this guy that I'm thinking about the time why he hadn't called me. So I was already, something was stirring up in me, and I didn't know what it
Mhm.
was. It was definitely love at first sight, but I didn't know
Oh.
that. And he goes, "What are you doing here?" And he takes his hard hat off, and I was like, whoa, I don't know. You said you worked at New Hill. You didn't say Sharon Harris Nuclear Power Plant. The New Hill is the job, the town that the plant is in. And I
Uh-huh.
was so new in the area, I didn't know what he was talking about. I said, okay, you work at New Hill. That's nice, you know. But lo and behold, both his dad and my dad both worked in the administrative areas, and it was just meant to be. It was meant to be. I had met actually his dad before I saw him in person and realized it was the same guy I had met at the bowling alley. And his dad was the only guy that I would talk to. And all the other ones were, cat calling me and, oh, come here, mama, mamacita, no sé qué. And I'm like, no. And then what has he got that we don't? And he would give me butterscotch candy. And to me, that was like a treasure because I don't know, I just needed a little sugar. But
Yeah.
super polite and very respectful. And I just loved that about him among all these other people that were like animals. So
Hmm.
I appreciated it. And I had to walk through all the construction site back then. The plant hadn't been built yet. And I ran into my husband to be, and he says, I tried to call you, but I lost your number. I said, don't give me that lamest excuse in the book. His daddy showed me the phone number, the piece of paper with my name on it. And my name is Mendieta, so it was hard to remember. Smith, of
Uh-huh.
is common as all get out. That's what I've become, a Smith. Which, by
Uh-huh.
the way, in high school, someone predicted, I can't say your name, Martha Maria Mendieta. No, we're going to call you M&M's. You're going to marry a Smith. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
I would love to get back with her and tell her yes. And he's been 41 years my husband. But that's the kind of adventures that I've had. So fast forward, I had a job at the nuclear power plant and I got hurt. I got hurt. I tore my
Mm-hmm.
ACL, and then all of a sudden it was like a domino effect of all kinds of injuries on me. I've had 27 surgeries, orthopedic surgeries, and a combination of tonsils and all that other stuff. But what happened was I re-injured my knee when I graduated. I went to the medical university, college, way after the fact. I was older than the most of the professors that, that taught me at that time, and it was cute. I was like, oh, wow. I didn't never imagine this to happen, but I was treating cancer patients. I was studying to be a radiation therapist. And this is where I gained a huge piece of wisdom that I didn't even know was wisdom back then. It was something that impacted me. And those
Mm-hmm.
little kids in that cancer center would say, why doesn't anybody smile? Well, I don't even know what it likes to feel to giggle and this and that. And I was like, whoa, God is teaching me how to live through these kids
Yeah.
and the importance of small acts of kindness or joy. Those are the
Yes.
memorable ones. Those are the ones that impact your heart and your soul. So I was like, wow, I was so grateful for that, but I didn't know about all that till after. What the after came when the pandemic hit. I had
Mm.
I had been transformed too. I took a product that whittled me down 70 pounds, 70 inches. And I tried to make that product global in Spain and Europe. So people
Mm-hmm.
started to get to hear me. And then I got even bolder and said, let's do YouTube channels with this Mexican TV producer. And she invited me. She says, I'll interview you, whatever, and we'll try to sell your product. But then it hit me that I was saying a lot of things that had the
Mm-hmm.
common denominator of resilience.
Mm.
And this is where I say I was becoming an authority in resilience, and I didn't even know I had it. So we started doing the shows, and then the free book workshop, 3 day three book workshop to how to write a book. I was like, I've always wanted to write a book. Let me see. Let me check it out. I got on there the first day. I'm an avid photographer, but with the iPhone. I used to have a camera, but I don't even
Mm-hmm.
mess because it's not fast enough for me to so I take a picture and all of a sudden it's like I become an avid photographer. And I was always creative. Why did I stop being creative? Because I had a 4 year scholarship before I even signed up for the Air Force that I wanted to do. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
be an artist. I had a free Fulbright scholarship, the
Mm-hmm.
school, everything, but my parents didn't want me to go. So I had
Mm-hmm.
to give it up. They even tried to work with me instead of it was in Rhode Island School of Design. They said, "We'll put you in New York Institute or no, I don't know. I don't even know, remember where they were going to stick me." My parents said, "No, you're not riding the train. You're going to stay here." And I was like, "Okay, if I'm going to stay here, I'm going to find a way out." And that's why I
Mm-hmm.
joined the Air Force. So now you see why I do what I did, but it was like
Right.
everything's coming at me full force, and I don't know what to do other than to make a choice that I don't want to be in the same rut for the rest of my life. And that's what I was doing. The pandemic hit. I did that bookshop, and I was like, I am going to write a book. By the third day, I already had my articles on my table of contents and my story already. And I started writing the first chapter. I'm like, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. This book got published in December 2022. In January 2023, the best January ever, I got my
Woo.
first resilience prize for my book. And I was like, whoa, okay, now, okay, that's cool. I'll put it on my resume. And then halfway through to 2023, I got a call saying, "You've been nominated for Women of Hearts, a resilience story." And I was like, okay. Yeah, nominated, okay, but goes good on the resume. I kept thinking resume. I just dismissed it, kind of like, okay, yeah, that's nice.
Yep.
And then they called me and said, "You've won. You got to come pick your up up your
Uh-huh.
award, not here local, in England." And I was like, "Oh my God." So God, you got me going with the networking in Spain, and now you got me traveling in England. Something about worldwide. I don't know what's going on. Okay, we'll leave it there. And I went to England. Meanwhile, while I was in England, I got an award for Women of Story of Impact in Ireland. And I was going to try to fudge my flight to go in there, but God didn't want me in there because that was the very hotel where there was a riot breaking out the very weekend I would have gone. So it
Mm-hmm.
was it was meant to be however it happened, and I'm just glad that I was able to get the other award mailed. So now I got three awards going on this thing. That wasn't it. I get back home from England, and then in Latino Sin Frontera, since I speak Spanish, and I decided to use it for my benefit instead of cussing about
Right.
it. And I said, okay. And voted me Inspiration 2023. And I was like, whoa, okay. So because of that last nomination or voting, I said, God's asking me to write this book in Spanish. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Marty, you gave up Spanish for 8 years. Now it's time. You have that in you. You just don't want to pull it out because it reminds you of too many things.
Mm-hmm.
I did it. I did it. I wrote and translated the book in Spanish. I had some help because I wanted to sound in the same tone as English, and some of the things don't translate exactly. But I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
give that idea that this is as legit as I can make it in Spanish. And so far, I think I'm proving my point because the bilingual people say, "Okay, yeah, yeah, you got it both sides." Okay. So now it's becoming international. The book's international. I'm in Europe, I'm in Latin
Awesome.
America, all over the place, but it didn't stop there. It didn't stop there because I now had two anthologies that I was part of. Plus, I remembered, and this is how limited we are when we're going at it full force and against the tide and we don't notice the good stuff. I had
Mm-hmm.
written my first poem. I was a poet laureate, an international poet laureate in 2001. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, so now I got five books on my table of contents. And I was like, okay, Marty, you're gonna become an author. I mean, and no, you are an author, but now you're gonna do this for a living. And that's what's
Mm-hmm.
happening. Now I've been invited to do talks and speak about resilience. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I discovered that my passion, my purpose, and my
Right.
were about leaving a legacy of hope and resilience. And why did I want a legacy? Because I wasn't able to have children. Yes, my husband's been with me for 41 years,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt like I was missing that piece to give them. I was assuming too much responsibility, but it wasn't meant to be. At the same time, God was helping me deal and heal with that because I
Mm-hmm.
was a Sunday school teacher for 35 years. Those
Mhm.
kids that were tiny little tots, when I saw
Yeah.
are now full grown with children of their own. And guess what they're doing? They're following the footsteps that somehow or another God let me teach them, and they become Sunday school teachers, and they're doing everything prim and proper like I would have wanted my kids to do.
To do.
So
Yeah.
to me, that's a huge blessing. Even the parents
Yeah.
that belong to those children say, "Well, they like you more than me." I said, "I was their friend, not their not their parent." But they are awesome human beings, and this is where I know that God was teaching me that it didn't matter where I was, who I was with. He was trying to provide what I needed, that nurturing, that caring, and feeling useful and serviceful for the world. And it's just been extraordinary what he's doing to my psyche. It's like when I finally started saying, okay, no, Marty, it's not arrogance to love yourself. It's valuable, because if you don't love yourself, how can you expect to love anybody?
Mhm.
You're just torturing yourself to believe that you are. And when I started cleaning out all that limiting belief, and I learned about it all this during the pandemic, because I
Mhm.
decided that education was my lifesaver.
Right.
It had been a consistent the whole time through. I just didn't realize how important it had been to keep me from being distracted,
Mhm.
from the pain and the agony of the torture that I was living because of the assumption that I had been a mistake. So
Mhm.
ooh, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, but I'm telling you, it's the best decision I ever made in my life to write the book. So the first one
Yes.
was the Air Force, second one was marrying my husband, the third one was writing that book. And now I see that if I die today, I die a happy person because I feel like I did something that was worthwhile,
Mhm.
and that I should value myself more than
Right.
I thought I was worth, and teach others to do the same, because I think that's where half of us forget to dream, or
Right.
don't know how to dream because we've heard nothing but ugly. We've been surrounded by negativity. We've been dealt a raw deal, and we don't
Mhm.
know that we can get past it because no one is there to help us see the good
Yeah.
aspects of it. And there's always something good that comes out of bad. And I never thought that was,
Very true. Mhm.
but it makes you, it drives you, it motivates you, it
Mhm.
find a different angle and look at that perspective in a different way and
Mhm.
say, okay, I didn't see it back then because I was looking at it dead on. Now I'm looking at it from the sun. It's like, well, what? I learned a lesson. I learned possibilities. I learned options. I learned that I survived. I learned that I'm alive. I learned that I'm worth it, that I so can do so much more than I allow myself to believe. And that was what made me believe in myself to continue doing this for a business. And
Mhm.
I'm not complaining. I'm a happy camper, and I can say that I have the privilege of doing what I love to do
You.
and getting
Yes.
paid for it and sharing it with the world. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
I love that. Very powerful.
Thank
And you
you.
got through the struggles and you turned them into your power. I love that.
Yeah, and all those surgeries led me to a wheelchair too, and a suicide
Mhm.
attempt. There's so much,
Mhm.
and it's easy for me to say now. Before I didn't want to talk to anybody about it because
Right.
it was my hellhole, and nobody could see it because they hadn't lived it. So that's
Mhm.
another misconception we have, that just because we've been through bad stuff doesn't mean that other people won't. There's plenty of other people that have suffered similar. They just don't
Yes, I
talk
agree.
about it. And when you
Mhm.
talk about it, you're releasing all that unsettled emotion, and you start seeing a little better picture, a brighter future. You start seeing a vision. You start finding your purpose, your passion, and your mission. And that is what I promote. That's what I want to teach the world.
Yes, I love that mission.
So
And if
tell me a little about you, because I saw you on all these groups, but I want to hear your story too.
my story, I started in 2011. My daughter was ill.
Mm.
Um, she was in the hospital for a month. We didn't know what was going on at the time. And she had some stomach problems and she had to have a surgery. And I needed to be home with her.
Hmm.
Because I needed to help her, and there were things we had to do. She was being bullied in school. People didn't understand, even teachers, grown teachers
Wow.
didn't understand. And I said I needed to be home.
Hmm.
Uh, so I ended up getting fired, which in a sense was a blessing. Now, at the time, I didn't think so.
Yeah, I
But
know.
um, I was able to be home, be with her, and I started my career in health and wellness.
Wow.
I worked for a company and I did that. I did that for many years, but in 2018, I was told I might have blood cancer.
Ah.
So it was the worst 2 weeks of my life waiting for this test to come back. I didn't tell the kids. I kept it bottled up.
Hmm.
And I was on a journey. I knew I wanted more. I knew I wanted to live my life on my terms.
That's it.
And when I found out that I didn't have it, which was a blessing, thank God, I said, I'm going to do what I love, and that's coaching women. So I became certified as a
Uh-huh.
business strategist. And I said, you know what? I'm going to open my own company.
There you go.
And then that's when Everyday Mompreneur started. So
Wow.
I help moms turn their passions into an opportunity where they can, they don't have to live in financial insecurity.
Mm-mm.
They can do it on their own with help.
That's it.
And I didn't have the support when I first started. Everybody's like, you're crazy, quitting your job, losing the job. Now you're going to this. You need a
Hmm.
real job. Well, I took that.
Did your daughter recoup?
Yes, she's very good now, but
Scary.
it took a long time.
Hmm.
And she's still today with the bullying. It's very hard. It's difficult. She has anxiety, and at the time I suffered through anxiety too. So I know how that felt.
Yeah, I guess I got bullied a lot too because I didn't know my Spanish. And I lived in Venezuela and they're like, I said, you don't speak Spanish. No, but I'm kicking butt in English.
Yeah.
So that's how I mean, I got bullied a lot and I was very shy. And if you asked me back then to speak to someone, just one person on the
Hmm.
phone, not even in person or on camera, I'd be like, you know, just dying and from
Right.
anxiety because I didn't think I could do it. But
Hmm.
no, I've got that practice of stepping out of the comfort zone. But
And
anyway,
one day a teacher called me with my daughter and said, even these teachers are bullying her. And she goes, and I know what the problem she had, my daughter. She goes,
yeah.
my son had it. So I know.
Uh-huh.
But she goes, I can't believe teachers are being like this too.
Wow.
It was ridiculous.
Nah. No, but she'll come out of it and she'll
Well,
realize just like we did sooner or later. It
yep.
takes everybody, and that's the thing is everybody goes through a different process. And
Mm-mm.
the worst thing we could do is compare ourselves to other people. Okay.
Right.
Yes, social media is wonderful and it teaches you all kinds of things, but if you let yourself believe, fall for anything, because that's what you do, you will not stand for anything. So
Right.
you have to discern what information you're gathering. You have to have a good value or belief that these people are teaching you in the right form or fashion. And the way you can tell if you don't know, because I found out, it's like your gut tells you. You
Yep.
start second doubting and double
Yep.
guessing and like, maybe no. And then that's when I say, walk away, Marty. Walk
Right.
away. Don't confuse yourself even more than you've already been confused. And so
Right.
that instinct was always in me. I just didn't realize it. So little by little, you start developing these skills that I say is a tool and an armor that God has placed on me to be able to defend myself in a different fashion than before. and not
Right.
fall apart and not crumble and not believe that this is the end of the world and I'm gonna die the way I am and I can't get out of it and la la la. Because it's not true. It's a
Yes.
lie that we all have taught ourselves because of generational whatever.
Yes.
It's repeated itself and no one taught us any differently. But now more than ever, we're so well informed of a lot of common good things. That's what we
Mm,
need to focus on. That's what we need to develop. And that, as you start getting educated and all that,
mhm.
or find your mentor, find a person that knows how to ask you the right questions, that you don't feel uncomfortable with, that you're able to express yourself to. And you'll start recognizing, which is something I also recognize, that I couldn't express myself or I wasn't allowed to.
Right.
I wasn't able to. It's so, but I was always, I could hear the questions all the time. And I would say, and they would say, why did you even think of that? Where'd you get that from? And it was just curiosity. It was
Right.
nothing more. And I always wanted to be informed. And I think that's why I say education is our saving grace. It's just, we just
Yes.
don't realize it. And it's not that you have to go get a title to get educated. You can get perfectly educated with a lot of resources and this is where you do, if you see someone that you see that they kind of, no matter what happens, they kind of get through it and they're still smiling and they still find
Yeah.
joy in their life, follow them.
Yeah.
Follow them because you something's gonna click in you that maybe you could do that. And that's
Mhm.
not comparison. That's just shooting for something, a standard way higher than what you were at one point in time basing your standard on, if you even had a standard. So,
Mhm.
anyway, I don't want to make this too long, but I'm just excited to share and meet you and actually
Yes.
this
I
conversation.
love this conversation and getting to talk with you.
And we're co-author, we're going to be authors in the same She Rises studio.
Yes.
That's just like I say, God puts you, lines you up with the people you want to be with too.
Yes.
You came from a different direction, I came from a different direction, but all of us that are in there are growing, knowing ourselves and sharing with the
Mhm.
world. And that's what
Well,
corroboration is about. That's what community
yes.
should be. And that's how we all need to realize that the world is
Mhm.
going to get better. If not,
Yes.
then you're just going to let stuff happen and bitch, moan, and complain the rest of your life and not realize how important it was for you to cooperate with the gift and the talent and the treasures that you may not even know you have, because I'm one of them,
Yes.
and be able to recognize yourself as a miracle, unique in every way, shape, or form that you were made by God.
Yes. Agree.
Anyway, so
And
what
there's room for all of us out there.
So what would you want to leave the audience with all the, or a takeaway from all this for someone else to hear and maybe absorb?
I would take away, no matter the struggle, no matter the hurt, work on yourself first, and then you'll be able to help others, but never give up. You
Hey,
may fall, you'll learn from those mistakes, but dust yourself off, get back up, and continue going.
amen, amen,
Never.
amen. Awesome. Thank you everyone for listening, and share it with someone that you may think
Yes.
they might need to hear it. It's just a matter of starting the baby steps, one in front of the other. And
Hmm.
and I have a YouTube channel. It's in Spanish, but it's got subtitles if you want to listen to it. And I'm sure you have a lot to offer as well. So Michelle and I are both willing to coach you through whatever it is that you need to get past, to move on and start dreaming and start creating something that you want from your life, because it's
Yes.
there.
Yes, it is. And
God
you are
bless.
worth it.
Yes, yes. God bless.